Hello there and welcome. Welcome, dear ones. Welcome, fellow cosmic travelers and seeker of the higher light. It's Psychic Cynthia here, spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian, and this is your Friday forecast for the week ahead. And that would be for the week of January 11th through January 17th. And what a week ahead it will be, astrologically and cosmically speaking. Many cosmic shifts taking place in this week ahead and many spiritual psychic activations. Let's get started with the forecast, shall we? Wonderful. So big picture in this week ahead, just looking at a summary of the energies and how I see these operating for us. First of all, there are many activations taking place in this week. So this is one of the most spiritually and psychically and astrologically charged weeks of the entire year. And it's only the second week, the second full week. So big picture here is that we're going to need to dig down deep to find our way in this week ahead. And if you want to be happy and productive or just spiritually connected and tuned in, you'll need to watch out for and avoid being triggered and letting your own, let me say, inner neuroses or inner bully, letting that come out on you, either in the form of self-criticism or criticism of others. This is a week where there could be temptations to try to push your way through the world. And really, this extends into next week as well, a bit. So there could be a temptation to lose your true self, to be overly aggressive, overly domineering, trying to remake others in the world instead of concentrating on the real work, which is evolving and growing within yourself. So a lot of this is going to be activated this week. And, both on an inner and an outer external world level, we're going to see challenges between visionaries, revolutionaries, and maybe some crazy people too as well. Not that visionaries and revolutionaries are crazy people, but when the energies get stirred up and when the visionaries come forth with a new way of looking at things, that also stirs up the people who are less than balanced. It's just the way of nature. It's the way it happens. Everything gets stirred up at once. And if you have people in your life, in your household, in your family, or if we have people in society, which we do, who are a little less than mentally balanced, and God bless them, God has blessed them, because I know many people who struggle with mental illness. It's a serious thing. I'm not making fun of it, okay? I'm not at all. But yes, these types of transits can trigger people whom are labeled crazy by the mainstream, people who have mental illness and who are dealing with that. And if you are a person who is dealing with that, then hopefully the information in this video, maybe you can use it to help yourself stay a little bit more balanced in the week ahead, and just be aware, that there are activations taking place astrologically in this next week ahead that might trigger you. But even those of us who don't have that struggle, who don't struggle with mental illness, especially those of us who are on a higher visionary path, and so we're reaching out. We're going to be activated this week in that. And that's a great thing, right? To have your higher vision activated, and also to focus more on higher consciousness. You will be desiring that in the week ahead. That's where the friction is going to come in, okay? Let me explain it to you very clearly here before we talk about the specific transits. And just as a preview, what we're looking at here, we've got new moon in Capricorn. And I believe that would be on Tuesday night, basically Tuesday night. Listen, if you're in the central USA time zone, like I am, that's going to be Tuesday night. And I believe it's at 11 p.m. exactly in our time zone. So if you're in Pacific USA time zone, that's going to be 9 p.m. exactly. Now, if you are in Europe or even in the Eastern USA time zone, if you're in the Eastern USA time zone, this full moon is exact in Capricorn at midnight, which makes it technically Wednesday, January 13th, instead of January 12th, okay? But either way, it's still kind of basically Tuesday night, right? If you count by lunar calendar. And in Europe, it depends on where you're at. It's going to be later in the middle of the night on Tuesday. Well, maybe actually closer to early morning is when the full moon will be exact. But of course, for charging our crystals, for taking our moon baths, or just soaking up the energy of the moon, it's better, I feel, to go out underneath the full moon as it is approaching the exactness, rather than to go out the next night when it's going to be very, a little bit far from being exact. So yes, Tuesday night is when we want to get out in the moon and get charged. That's more of the magical part. But back to the astrology here. So what we're having with this, we've got the new moon in Capricorn, and then we also have several shifts between planets in Aquarius and Taurus squaring each other. And so what this represents here, if you look at the combined energies, what it's representing is a battle taking place, or a power struggle. And power struggle would be the right word too, because we also have Sun conjunct Pluto in Capricorn this week on Thursday. And then the full moon, the moon is making a conjunction to Pluto during the full moon. And Pluto is a beautiful planet. It can bring up great strength and self-determination and the will, but it also can activate power struggles. And we're already seeing some of the first, let's say, pre-shocks of these transits in this week that I'm filming the video. And I'm sure if you're in the United States, you know what I'm talking about, and some of the interesting events that have happened in Washington, D.C. this week. So I try not to take sides. I mean, I get it when people, are stressed by energies. They don't always know how to handle it. So that's why I do these videos, and that's why I encourage all of you on your spiritual psychic path to meditate and relax. And, sometimes we just need to calm the heck down, simmer down. And maybe this week ahead is one of those weeks where we need to find that balance between our inner revolutionary. Did I mention that Uranus is going direct? And that is happening. I believe that's also on Thursday. Let me check my notes on that. Yes, Thursday, January 14th, 2021. We have Uranus going direct in Taurus, Sun conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn. And then we've got all this friction taking place with Mars and Mercury and Jupiter in Aquarius. Mars is in Taurus. Mars and Uranus are in Taurus, but Mercury and Saturn and Jupiter are in Aquarius. So it's that Aquarian-Taurus axis. And really, you can think of this week ahead. I would look and pay attention to this week ahead, okay? Because I think that the different shifts that are taking place in this week, the individual shifts collectively are going to give us a snapshot and a preview of what we might expect to see more of in the year ahead. And I say that because these shifts, many of them are taking place in Taurus and Aquarius. And we have an emphasis of Taurus and Aquarian energy all year long, okay? There are some energies, other signs that come into play later in the year. Like, for example, when Jupiter makes its foray into Pisces. And I think that's basically May to July. But then it's going to flip back to Aquarius. So there's a little bit of other energies, and of course we have Mercury and various air signs, but the big players, the strong push energetically this year is centering around that conflict, that tension of the Aquarian-Taurus aspect, which, this is the Aquarius, this is the visionary I'm talking about here. This is the part of you that is seeking to spiritually evolve and grow, and you're really dialed in that part of you. And especially this week again, because these squares are activating that dialed in higher consciousness part of you. But if you're not consciously working with that part of you, in other words, everyone has a higher self somewhere within them, but not everyone is consciously building that relationship, making that connection, even listening. And for people in the mainstream who are not making that conscious connection, what happens is instead of really getting to talk with and communicate with your higher self and being able to follow those signs and those intuitions, what happens is, you get a sense of what you want. There's this idealistic picture that comes up, in other words, and this vision of what you think your life should look like. And then with the Taurus energy, you're also looking at what is really happening right now physically. And so there's conflict between that. And if you don't have the connection to the higher self, it's hard to figure out how to get to where you want, where your ideal is spiritually and on all levels. That higher ideal that you're striving for, how do you get there from where you're at now? And that's where and why we see such frustration in the masses right now. I understand how people are upset and feeling restless, feeling dissatisfied, maybe feeling oppressed as well. And, you can look at this from different levels. You can look at it, of course, from the political level, and there are people that do that. But my realm, my area of expertise is the metaphysical level and the cosmic level and the spiritual level. And from the spiritual level, if we are feeling held back within our lives, if we are feeling that our lives are less than ideal, then this is a call, a challenge to tune more deeply into the higher self, to live life more fully as your higher self. And it's hard to do, I know sometimes. It's hard to be your higher self if you're having tension in relationships, if you're having power struggles, as we will see some of this week. If you're locked into arguments with people, one of the best things that you can do for yourself this week and this year, period, is to make your mental peace a priority, and also perhaps to cultivate an allowance for differences in opinions. It's okay if other people have a different perspective than you, even if those are people you live with. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, especially if these perspectives are regarding things that are occurring outside your household or your immediate life. I mean, I see people, get worked up. I mean, even in some of my own relationships, I've had to catch myself, I get worked up sometimes if I disagree on a political issue with somebody, or, my interpretation of what is happening in this news story is different than their interpretation. But at the end of the day, I have to just stop and think, what does it matter? I mean, yes, maybe it matters in a collective sense, but really, what does it matter if someone in your life feels differently about, say, something happening in Washington? Unless you live in Washington, unless you work in the Capitol building, okay, that's different. And I don't know that I'm qualified to advise you on that, okay? That's a different scenario, okay? But if you're living your life and you're on your spiritual path and your journey and you're trying to evolve and grow and make your life better, then it's imperative to make your mental peace a priority, and perhaps to let go of the expectation that others are going to want to see it your way or even do it your way. These words of advice will go very far in the week ahead because, again, we have Mercury. Let me just go over this list really quickly with you. You want to know what the exact shifts are and what days they're taking place on. I did mention the new moon, right? The new moon in Capricorn. I'm going to have to do a separate video about that because we have to look at the week ahead here. We'll see if I have time for a separate video on that. But I just want to say the new moon in Capricorn, yeah, I have more to say on that, so we'll give you a second video on that later. But that's an activation, right? The first new moon of the year, you might say, is actually, from the lunar perspective, the beginning of the new year. So we're really having our rebirth, our awakening. If you haven't felt yet like you've been able to pick your feet up and get the new year started, I bet you'll start feeling that after Tuesday. So that's good news, okay? And then we also have, in terms of these Aquarian Taurus energies, we have on Well, on Monday, Mercury and Jupiter conjunct in Aquarius. That's lovely. That could bring a momentary inspiration, a blessing, some unexpected good luck, and maybe just a moment of optimism and hope. You know, your attitude could uplift then. So that's wonderful. But then we do have some stresses with Mercury is in Aquarius, is squaring Uranus on Tuesday, and that'd be January 12th, 2021. Mars in Taurus is squaring Saturn in Aquarius on Wednesday. You know, that is something where you might want to push ahead in some way. You're trying to perhaps deal with your finances or your day-to-day expenditures, your day-to-day life, your survival, or managing the household. And then you might hit up against walls. You know, some of those walls could even be tech walls. So there's a little bit of a friction when Mars squares Saturn, and this happens, you know, it's not always the best for helping us to move ahead or get things done. It's like a push-pull, because the Mars has an idea. The Mars within you, your inner spirit, has an idea about what it wants to do, and it wants to get stuff done. But then there's this authority figure, or these rules, or maybe it's even technology that isn't working right. There's something that isn't working right or isn't allowing you to go as quickly as you'd want. Although, with Mars and Taurus, nothing's going too terribly quick, okay? This is a very slow-moving Mars energy. And I would know I have Mars and Taurus in my birth chart. So it's more of an earthy, solid energy. This is about moving slow but smart, okay? And, you know, maybe you don't get to move as quickly as you want, but then again, this is a time for digging through and perhaps pushing through resistance, or as I like to think of it, melding, swimming through resistance. When there are obstacles in your life that you just can't get through, try to go around. Become flexible, fluid like water. Move around them instead. You know, if you can't push through them, and you're probably going to try in this week ahead. We all are going to try to push through our obstacles, and maybe you will be successful that way. Maybe in certain situations that is appropriate. But certain obstacles, you know, you have to find a workaround. Or sometimes you just have to go through it. Sometimes Saturn demands that you do certain things, that certain criteria, certain qualifications, credentials are met for you to proceed to the next level, to do what you want to do. And even though we don't have as much Capricorn energy this year overall, we do have quite a bit this month. So there is still an emphasis on following the rules, decorum, tradition. And the visionary within us, you know, even the spiritual consciousness person within you may not like that. But again, if you want to get ahead, if you want to progress, you'll find a way to either get around that or work within it. You know, what I always told my students, you know, and still tell them with learning, say, psychic reading, I encourage them to learn the rules, the guidelines, right? The rules are just guidelines, first of all, but I encourage them to learn the rules so that they can bend the rules. And if you know the rules, then you can bend the rules. So maybe part of it is just learning what is expected of you. If you're hitting up against roadblocks in this week ahead, figure out what is expected of you, what others are demanding or wanting, and then see if there's a way you can deliver a little bit of that, but without compromising who you are, without compromising your path. This would help you in the week ahead and really for the entire month of January 2021. We also have near the end of this week on Sunday, it's almost overlapping into the next forecast, but it is part of this forecast. We have Jupiter in lovely Aquarius and free-willing Aquarius square Uranus in earthy and grounded Taurus. So there's more of that energy of wanting to move ahead, of feeling optimistic about the new year, but there are larger forces that are demanding you to take care of business first, to follow routine and rules, and Taurus, even more than Capricorn, really. Taurus is about routines and the way things have always been done and the tried and true. So you might need to look at the tried and true. You might need to appease the people that run things, you know, that do things the tried and true way. It's really hard right now with these energies for us as a collective to make the breakthrough, the leap to the next level, because there's a lot of resistance, okay? There's a lot of clinging to how things have been for a long time. And then there's some totalitarianism energies too. We want to be visionary, we want to walk a higher path, but if we instigate even in our own personal lives totalitarianism in an attempt to do that, then that's not really visionary. I mean, in other words, if you have this idea about a new diet, say you want to try, or, you know, a new meditation practice, or a new, you know, spiritual center you want to go to, or anything new you want to try, a way you want to expand and progress and reach out further. But if you try to force that on the people in your life, if you try to make them do it, or make anybody do it really, and governments try this sometimes. You know, they try to create progress by forcing it on people. And I don't know, it might get some people in the habit of doing it, that's true, but it doesn't really change consciousness. We need to learn that force, which is a form of violence, does not change consciousness. The only thing that really changes consciousness is inner growth. And maybe, I think, also, we can help, maybe not change, but influence each other. We influence each other through our examples. So if there's something that you want to do, you want to be a visionary in your own life in this week ahead, you want to make progress, you know, you have a dream you're going after, or you just want to improve things in some ways, then start with you and do that. And, you know, don't just preach at the people in your life or try to coerce them into doing things your way. That won't work this week. Even if it did work, let's just say it worked momentarily, it will backfire on you. Because people remember when they have been coerced. They do not forget. I mean, especially when you have Taurus energies. Taurus has a long memory. Taurus can carry a grudge a long time. Something to think about in the week ahead. Maybe show a little self-restraint. Tap into that Capricorn energy of the new moon and the sun still being in Capricorn. And, you know, don't burn bridges you might need to cross back over again later. That's all I'm saying on that. Okay, so I hope you found this forecast helpful, and I hope your new year is going well. How is it going for all of you? Let me know in the comments if you feel so led. My new year is going fine. I can't say anything spectacular has happened yet, but it's going well enough. So been making a lot of videos, and I have a course special running on my course website, so check that out if you like to study some of the materials I have. I have a bunch of courses on sale, so if you want to study astrology or runes or psychicism, or even connecting with your ancestors, that's available for a substantial discount for the next couple of weeks at least. Anyhow, let's just try to keep it together in the week ahead. Let's try to stay calm. Remember, just thinking about the higher cosmic energies, thinking about your connection to your soul and your higher self, remembering the ancestors and the guides, calling on them. All of this can be helpful in times like these. Until next time, I'm sending you all much love and great blessings for a beautiful week and month ahead. Bright blessings.